Hi viewers, let's dive into a most fascinating American thriller. The Hudson Valley region of New York features the protagonist, a retired detective, Augustus Landor. He lives alone in his house and does nothing but drink. This is because his wife passed away due to an illness some years ago, and his daughter has been missing for months. One morning, as he is chilling by the river, a military officer, Captain Hitchcock, approaches him and mentions that his senior wants to meet him. Landor, who doesn't like leaving his house, refuses to go, but when Hitchcock stresses that the matter is urgent, he agrees. Along the way, they talk about Landor's past achievements. It turns out that he is one of the best detectives in the country with a 100% success rate. He has always solved the mysteries he has been assigned to, even the ones in Gotham City. Soon they arrive at a military academy and head straight into Superintendent Thayer's office. The latter knows Landor so well that he is aware of his wife's death and his daughter's disappearance. After expressing his condolences, he gets straight to the point and reveals that one of their military soldiers was found dead. The soldier was from Kentucky, his name was Fry, and his favorite food was chicken. Everyone suspects that he committed the unthinkable, but a few things suggest otherwise. Someone approached Fry after his death, cut open his body with precision, and removed his heart. After explaining all this, they request Landor to find the culprit and bring him to light. The detective agrees and immediately gets to work. He, along with Hitchcock, visits the morgue and meets with Dr. Daniel, the same doctor who conducted Fry's autopsy. Daniel mentions that he has already checked the corpse thoroughly but couldn't find anything suspicious. However, when Landor performs a basic checkup, he finds a bruise behind Fry's head and a torn piece of paper in his hand. This makes him conclude that Fry didn't commit the unthinkable but someone killed him on purpose. Landor tries his best to decipher the meaning in the torn piece of paper but to no avail. Only a few words are written, and guessing the exact sentence is near impossible. Before he leaves the academy, Hitchcock warns him to keep the ongoing investigation a secret. Later, Landor visits the place where Fry's body was found and starts investigating. Right then, a cadet named Edgar Allan Poe approaches him and says that he believes Fry was killed by a poet. That's not Poe, that's Dudley Dursley. Fry was killed by a dementor, case closed. Poe believes that Fry was killed by a poet because he himself is a poet who is aware of the art of extracting someone's heart from their body. Landor obviously does not believe this, so Edgar gives him another clue. He says that a few days before Fry was killed, he had a fight with his roommate. In the next scene, Landor heads to the academy and interrogates a few cadets with Hitchcock's permission. However, none of them state anything that can help with the case. After the interrogation ends, an officer arrives with a note for Hitchcock. The latter reads it and is taken aback. It turns out that a cow and a sheep have been killed in a similar fashion. Their hearts have been taken out after being strangled to death. It is evident that the killer is warning them to stop the investigation. However, this only makes Landor more focused on finding the killer. He heads straight to Edgar and asks him to help decipher the message written on the piece of paper he found in Fry's hand. Although Edgar is only a trainee who is not allowed to interact with outsiders, he agrees to help, and surprisingly, the same evening he comes up with an answer. He visits Landor at his house and explains that although he cannot say what the entire note said, the last paragraph mentions, "Don't be light," which means that the killer had invited Fry to a location. After some discussion, they conclude that the note was written by a woman because a cadet like Fry would have no purpose meeting a man outside late at night. Just then, Edgar remembers seeing a beautiful woman outside the military base on the day of the murder. The following day, Landor sends a note to Edgar asking him to meet him at an ice house near Lake Courage. Without wasting any time, Edgar arrives there and finds Landor inspecting an old abandoned house. Inside, he sees a circle and a triangle drawn on the floor and assumes that someone conducted a ritual there. He also mentions that the performers placed Fry's heart in between the shapes and performed black magic as the house belongs to Dr. Daniel's son, Artemis. Landor now suspects that Artemis did all of this. However, to learn more about black magic, he takes Edgar to meet one of his special friends, John, who is an expert in such topics. They provide him with diagrams of the strange shapes, and John immediately deduces that it is a special kind of black magic ritual performed to become immortal. He also mentions that to conduct it, one needs the heart of an unbaptized child and one of a man who died from hanging. Hearing all this, Landor asks Edgar to befriend Artemis and try to extract more information from him. The cadet agrees and starts meeting Artemis regularly. Surprisingly, they become good friends. One night, Edgar gathers with Artemis and his friends for some drinks. From their conversation, he learns that Fry was in a relationship with Artemis's beautiful sister Leah. Many believe that he committed the unthinkable after she ditched him. Meanwhile, Landor gets a vision of his lost daughter and starts panicking. it is clear that he still hasn't gotten over the tragedy. The next morning, the murdered cadet's funeral is finally conducted. As Landor pays his respects, he is approached by Fry's mother, who hands him Fry's diary. She wants him to have it so that he can find the real culprit. She also mentions that everything in the diary is written in a cryptographic language and she does not understand any of it. Later, while returning home, Landor runs into Daniel and his wife Wiley and tells them that he will not stop until he finds the killer and punishes him. When Wiley asks him about his wife, Landor replies that she died 2 years ago. Landor may be starved for answers, but Wiley is obviously thirsty for something else. Elsewhere, Edgar goes to Artemis's house to find out more about him but is immediately distracted when he hears Leah playing the piano. Since she also loves poetry, the two get to talking and become attracted to one another. Before he leaves, Edgar invites Leah to meet him outside the following day, to which she agrees. In the next scene, they meet at a cemetery, a hot date, and begin expressing their feelings. Edgar states that he is greatly attracted by her beauty and charm. When it's Leah's turn, she unexpectedly suffers from a seizure and falls to the ground. Luckily she soon recovers and Edgar accompanies her back home. Meanwhile, Landor tears out papers from Fry's personal diary and successfully extracts some information from it. At night as Edgar is working alone, a fellow cadet and Artemis's friend Ballinger attacks him from behind and beats him up badly. Fortunately, Landor arrives just in time and saves Edgar before he is killed. The next day Landor learns that Ballinger is missing and later finds his body hanging in the woods with his heart removed. However, this time Daniel takes a closer look at Ballinger's body and reveals that the person who removed his heart is different from the one in Fry's case. Hearing that the cutting is not as precise or accurate this time, high-ranking officials become angry and demand Landor solve the case as soon as possible. They instruct him to interrogate Edgar, the most mysterious and cunning person at the camp. When Landor refuses, Hitchcock reveals that Edgar recently fought with both murder victims, Fry and Ballinger. Surprised, Landor meets Edgar outside and asks if he's hiding something. Edgar admits to fighting them due to bullying but insists he didn't kill them. Later, at dinner with Daniel, Landor notices Wiley is anxious. Afterward, Daniel reveals Leah suffers from a rare disorder with no cure. Hitchcock then informs them that another cadet, Stoddard, is missing. Alarmed, Landor checks Stoddard's room but finds nothing, suspecting shady business ties with Fry and Ballinger. He then consults his wizard friend John about a witch hunter mentioned previously. John shows him a picture of the witch hunter who wrote a book on becoming immortal. Meanwhile, Leah and Artemis capture Edgar to perform a ritual similar to Fry's. Landor arrives just in time to confront Daniel about the witch hunter and Leah's illness. Caught red-handed, Daniel admits to witch hunting to save Leah but reveals his family is involved in sacrificing Edgar. Terrified, Landor rushes to the abandoned house where Leah and Artemis are about to cut Edgar. Arriving just in time, Landor stops them, but Leah ignites a fire in her rage. As Artemis fights Landor, a wooden pole falls on Leah, knocking her unconscious. Both siblings become trapped in the fire as Landor rescues Wiley and Edgar. The next day, with Edgar in the hospital, the superintendent praises Landor for his service, believing the case is solved. Hitchcock also thanks Landor and apologizes for his earlier behavior. After a few weeks, Edgar visits Landor, revealing shocking findings. He discovered that the handwriting on the note fragment in Fry's possession matches the note he received from Landor, indicating that Landor was responsible for the cadets' deaths. Edgar learned about Landor's daughter Matilda from a tavern lady. Landor confesses that 2 years prior, Matilda was violated by Fry, Ballinger, and Stoddard, leading to her tragic death. Consumed by revenge, Landor killed Fry and staged it to look like a suicide. He later murdered Ballinger to cover his tracks. Believing Stoddard fled in fear, Landor participated in the investigation to avoid suspicion. In a final twist, Landor offers Edgar the chance to expose him as the killer, but Edgar refuses, arguing that Fry and Ballinger deserved their fate. He burns the notes that could incriminate Landor and leaves, expressing gratitude for their time together. The film concludes with Landor at the cliff where Matilda died, releasing her hair ribbon into the wind as a tribute.